Who knows who Mr. Beast is? Raise your hands.
I do.
Okay, if you don't know who Mr. Beast is, you likely don't have a child under the age of 20 or you live under a rock. One of those two. Mr. Beast is the 4th largest YouTube channel in the world.
Interesting.
First person, largest YouTube person in the world. And I would bet every high schooler that we have walking through here would know who Mr. Beast is. You guys know who Mr. Beast is?
Yes, sir.
You don't, but you do? Okay, cool. So, Mr. Beast does fun philanthropy things with his social media following. So, like, literally, he will go. It's super fun to watch. Honestly, I enjoy watching him as a 34-year-old male. He will go to a car dealership, buy every car on the lot, and then just whoever shows up to the lot through the day gets a free car. Okay, so that kind of stuff. He recently, was it Alex? Did you watch the iVideo? Alex is on our team. He's helping record this today. Did you watch the iVideo?
I think it was 1,000.
I think it was 10,000. I think it was more than 1,000. It was a lot. 10,000 people who had cataracts and didn't have the money all over the world that didn't have the money to, and like, is it on here?
Yeah, it's 1,000.
Oh, it's 1,000. I'm wrong. Alex, you are right. I'm sorry. 1,000 people who needed a simple cataract operation, which is not all that expensive, or all that technically difficult in the scope of medical procedures, but they didn't have the money for it. And so he paid for 1,000 people to get their cataracts fixed, and that's the kind of stuff he does. Anywho, why I'm bringing up Mr. Beast is because he is so popular. He's using that fame in a business way that most people have never done before. He's pivoting into direct consumer goods. So, if you go to Walmart, you can buy Mr. Beast chocolate bars. Okay? Now, that sounds weird, right? But keep in mind, his last video had 105 million views. And so he's using his star power to manipulate the market. He started in the pandemic a Mr. Beast Burger, which is a ghost kitchen. Who's familiar with the concept of ghost kitchens? Okay, yeah. So he used ghost kitchens across the entire United States to produce hamburgers and sell them on delivery apps. He didn't have any physical infrastructure, and his marketing is done by himself. That makes him very dangerous, right? So he opened a physical store in November and had 10,000 people show up to its opening. Okay? So, kind of like Amazon, you hope Mr. Beast doesn't decide to go into the sign business, right? Because if Mr. Beast decides to go into the sign business, you're going to have a bad time, right? So, he is a trend that you should be aware of. What are some other things that are going to affect you? I've got like 10 minutes. So artificial intelligence is coming. And I, just for the record, on the mic here, I, for one, welcome our robot overlords. Because if they're listening to this in the future, they'll know that I'm okay with them and they're not going to kill me. That's a little dystopian, but it's also not too far off the base. Okay, so all of your businesses, and I don't know what all of your businesses are, because I had only met those two people in this room before this morning. All of your businesses will be rocked by artificial intelligence. Full stop, period. Things like taxes, writing copy for marketing, ad placement, ad buying, detecting fraudulent transactions at a bank, are all things. I mean, graphic design, many of you have probably seen headlines about Midjourney and Diffusion making art that is all artificially intelligence generated. All of these things are going to affect your business. It may not be directly. I mean, I would even go so far as medical diagnoses are things that will be done by artificial intelligence in the next 10 years. So, how does that affect you? Some of you are like, well, you know, we're special or whatever. No, you're not. It's going to affect you. So, my advice is, if your industry group, or if you're part of a franchise, or your trade group is not talking about artificial intelligence, you need to tell them they need to start talking about and thinking about artificial intelligence. In 2019, in the before times, I went to a conference like in marketing artificial intelligence, and I could already see how my job potentially is in danger. And it could become a society of have and have-nots with if you have the technology or not. And I could do a whole dystopian talk about that as well. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist either. It sounds like I am, but legitimately, if you're not aware of how this is going to affect your industry, you should be, and you should be thinking about, are these tools things that we can use to be better at what we do to give us more shelf life? This is a little bit more practical. LinkedIn is still a hot platform. I know that sounds weird, but maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, LinkedIn decided we're going to be like Facebook used to be and give you organic reach on content before you had to start paying for everything. And so like you can put content on LinkedIn and guess what? People will see it. Unlike your Facebook posts where like nobody really sees it unless you put $10, $15, $50, $100, $200 on it, whatever. LinkedIn still has some organic reach capability. So I would be investing in LinkedIn content if I'm you, and I'd be putting content on LinkedIn. Splinterization, which I don't think is a real word, splinterization of media attention. Now, I think the last time, not counting Super Bowls, because Super Bowls are the anomaly here, I think the last time our entire culture sat down to watch one thing was Kelly Clarkson winning American Idol in 2002. Since then, and most of you probably are like, I've never really watched that, so you're wrong anyway. But since then, the media has continued to splinter in our society. So what do I mean by that? In the last 6 months, I have watched these 3 things, and I want to know if anybody's heard of any of them, okay? There's a show called Shoresy that I've watched. Has anybody heard of Shoresy? 1. Okay. Welcome to Wrexham. A little bit more mainstream. 1, 2, 3, okay, 4. Anybody watched it or just know that it exists? A lot of fun, right? Yeah. It's cool. And then I've watched a guy named Van Neistat on YouTube. Anybody heard of Van Neistat on YouTube? Okay. Now, why am I saying that? Not just because I'm weird and like weird things, okay? That's just par for the course with my life. But you could probably do the same thing with things that you've watched or listened to podcasts, and I would also be in the dark on a lot of those things. So why is that important? Stay with me. Our media attention is splintered. While even when I was a child, most people watched the same couple of channels or listened to the same radio stations and got news from the same sources. And some people haven't quite grasped that that has changed. But just that TV example right there should be enough to point to you that that has changed significantly. So now on the way here, how many of you listened to terrestrial radio on the way here? When I say terrestrial radio, I mean radio generated from a radio station within a 50-mile radius of here.
10.
Okay. How many of you listened to a podcast on the way here? How many of you listened to satellite radio on the way here? How many of you listened to a streaming station on your phone through your car on the way here? Okay. Did you see the diffusion of hands there? So what does that mean? That means that nobody's watching all the same things, nobody's listening to all the same things, and so we have a splinterization of media attention. So you have to think about multiple channels for marketing. It used to be you buy an ad on ABC, everybody's going to see it. That is no longer the case. We work with one local services company, an HVAC company, and we use, I blew the Kelly Clarkson slide timing. We work with like 12 different channels of marketing for this one company. Not including community sponsorships, kind of like some of you guys are talking about. That's something else that we advise them on and help them think through. But so like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube ads, Google ads. We work on SEO for them. We have ads on Spotify. We also have ads on local radio, TV, newspaper. We're working on getting started because, you know, aforementioned Jackson Sun not having any reporters. And we're working on getting ads on Hulu. And you know what? I can pull this slide this way and there'd be a lot more options as well. So what do you do with splinterization? You need to really understand who your customers are and where their attention is. But then you also need to be in multiple places. And so you have to be thinking through that and budgeting for that and thinking, you know, well, like one ad package on ABC, you could do almost all of these things for, right? And so you have to think through that priority-wise. I'm going to go really fast here because I'm running out of, I've basically run out of time. Another major theme is social responsibility is becoming more and more common. Groups are looking for possibly ESG. Has anybody heard the term ESG? It's environmental, social, and governance ruling. And so like companies are doing more of this, and I think that's going to affect you because talent growth is still going to be hard, and political polarization is more and more common. So like this is politically polarizing. Companies are doing this, and like including companies like BlackRock, which is a massive, massive company that manages funds that affect a lot of your retirement accounts. Political polarization is hurting them, and you could be on the front page of Twitter. Like someone said once, there's a main character of Twitter every day, and you don't want to be that person. And in most of the time, it has to do with political polarization. And so like, how can you prevent that? You need a diverse group of people helping you make marketing decisions. So like people who think different ways and have different experiences to help you from making the mistakes that end you up on the front page of Twitter. But talent growth is going to remain hard because COVID broke a lot of things, and people don't want to work the way they used to work. You can complain about it all day, but it's just kind of the way it is. And so like talent growth remains hard, but having a company identity is going to be super important to do that. And when I say company identity, is like having a mission, having a vision, having something that your company cares about besides making profits are going to be key components to being successful in that. And maybe ESG is part of that, but you may not want to phrase it that way so you don't piss off half the people. Right? So, for example, one of my goals is to build a company that people want to work at, because that makes everything else a lot easier. So we have a mission, our creative work that grows clients' businesses in a culture that values our team and community. So like part of our mission is to take care of our people and to take care of the community that we're in, which is Jackson. So predictions, more self-service ads, Hulu's self-service is coming, YouTube self-service is coming, Spotify self-service is coming. That means you're gonna have less and less ad people coming and knocking on your door trying to get you to buy stuff. But you'll also be able to do it yourself. Okay, so that's an advantage. Micro-influencers, so everybody knows the term influencers, I'm sure, and it's gross and nasty, but there's also gonna be like little local influencers. So like there's gonna be the mom that's real popular on Instagram in Bellevue, and you're gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna give you $50 and some free nutrition shakes, and you'll like come and talk about being at my nutrition place, right? This guy's a cross-section of running and archery, okay? Like that is a niche influencer, but he's got a following and he makes it work for him. Email is going to be cool again because social media is becoming more difficult to work with, and once you have an email list, it doesn't die like social media reach. And YouTube's relevance as a search engine is going to be really helpful. So if you've got videos, you should put them on YouTube so people can find you when they search for things on YouTube, because it's a search engine. Okay, that means I'm done, and it's 8:35. Thank you all for your attention and your time, and I hope it was worth your time.